Hello and a very big warm welcome to the ultimate guide to profitable webinars. It's a fabulous thing for me to have so many people from lots of different countries, which is always very exciting. And for those of you who know me quite well, I've got a few people on here who are regulars. I have got some new information to share. This isn't exactly the same as the other webinars that I've run on webinars, so hopefully you're still going to get bags of value even though you've attended webinars with me before. So let's crack on with things then. Now, first of all, why webinars? Now, anybody who knows me knows I'm a huge fan of webinars, but I thought it would be worth exploring why. First of all, they're quick, easy and cheap to test your products, test your market. One of the things I'm always telling people is that you really need to nail your niche, know what your target audience is and all of that kind of stuff. A webinar is a great way to test whether or not the niche that you've come up with is a good one or not. Just think about it for a minute. If you were going to set up a live seminar to find out if people are, the link is right at the top of the chat, ladies. If you see that where the little chat box is, there's a little scroller bar. If you scroll right up to the top, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll copy in and put it in again. Copy. Okay, there you go. If for some reason it's not, the click doesn't work, just copy and paste it into a browser. Try a different browser. I've reposted it. Maybe the scroll only works all the way up to the top on mine and not yours. Anyway, there it is. So yes, as I was saying, if you're going to test things on a live seminar, you've usually got 3 months lead time. You've usually got to book a room. That's usually going to cost you money. And you don't know how, what your attendance is going to be like. So it can be really difficult to test things quickly with live seminars. With a webinar, you can decide, I'm going to run a webinar on this topic for this particular audience, and you can literally do it within a week. You could decide today to run a webinar in 3 days time, let alone 3 months time. You can say, right, okay, I'm going to run a webinar 3 days time, send out the invites and see what response you can get, and with Facebook ads and all the social media channels available to you, you can find out really quickly what your response rate is likely to be. So, it's brilliant for testing and measuring new products, programs and services and niches and all that kind of stuff. Now, the other thing that I love about webinars is it's less hassle for people to attend. Now, one of the big bugbears I had when I was doing a lot of training and physical workshops was that people would say to me things like, well, I really want to come and learn this topic. I really want to attend this seminar, but I can't make that date, time, whatever. Because you've got other commitments going on. Sometimes you've got childcare issues. Sometimes it's something stupid like parking. There's lots of reasons why people can't attend. It's their son's football practice or something and they've got to take him. There's a million reasons sometimes why people can't attend physically. Now, unless you've got things set up, to record that live, which is a lot more difficult, anybody who can't make it loses out. And that's it, end of it. With a webinar, if people can't make it, they can still register and they can get a recording. And it's so easy to do. You just hit record, let it do its stuff at the end, send out the replay by email. It's simple, it's easy. You don't have to spend a fortune on, super duper audio visual equipment. If you're going to record it using your phone when you do it live, you kind of can't move too far out of the visual range of the phone, and all there's all sorts of things going on. The other thing is there's no geographical constraints. Live seminars can only be attended by people who can physically get there within a reasonable travelling distance. I mean, you look at the flags. If you have a look at the attendees in the right hand side, we've got flags here from the UK and they're all over the UK, not necessarily local. We've got USA, we've got Canada, we've got, is that Germany? So it doesn't matter where you are, we've got the USA as well. It doesn't matter where you are, people can attend. So there's no geographical constraints, which is fantastic. for a lot of people also, webinars are less daunting than live seminars. You know, let's face it, public speaking is one of the, you know, big issues for a lot of people. It's listed as the #1 fear in the world, and a lot of people don't like it because, you know, there's this feeling of everybody staring at you. On a webinar, you don't get that. It's a different, you know, you've still got a live audience there, you've still got to perform to a live audience, but it's not so scary because you don't see them all looking at you. For me personally, I actually prefer the live audience. I love to interact and see the people and see the feedback, and for that reason I actually find it easier live than I do on webinars. But for a lot of people it is way more comfortable to do it online through webinars than it is to get up on stage and speak. But the biggest thing for me is it is an incredible way of just increasing that know, like, trust factor. Now, we all know that people buy from people that we know, like, and trust, and webinars are the best way ever of doing that when you're working online. You can engage with people in a webinar far more than you can ever get your personality and your brand and what you're like as a person across on a sales page. Yes, a sales page can have fantastic copy, and it needs to have fantastic copy, but it doesn't do the job of getting your audience to know you and like you and trust you enough to buy in the same way that a webinar does. So for me, it's all about that engagement. And talking about engagement, by the way, peeps, that chat bar isn't just for you to ask me questions. Feel free to chat with yourself. One of the things I want to do here is create a community of people all working together to support each other with webinars. So as well as just having me, if you can, you know, hook up with each other, you know, be webinar buddies or whatever, please do use this forum to make friends, you know, get chatting, making friends. And, you know, I've got a Facebook group as well called Wicked Webinars, which, you know, is just, if you just go into your Facebook account, type in the search for Wicked Webinars and you'll find it, and ask to join and I'll let you in. Simple as that, because I want to create that community of people all on that same journey. So please do, you know, use the chat box, and also I'll be asking you questions, so, you know, type your answers away in there as well. All right, fantastic. So that is why webinars, and as you can see, I'm really keen on them. I'm a huge fan, and I'm a huge fan with good reason, because they've been very kind to me, which I'll tell you about later. Now, this is more reasons to love webinars. Okay, we are bombarded with anything between 3,000 and 20,000 marketing messages every day. That's a lot of marketing, and, you know, we're going to kind of just ignore most of it. So sales pages, banner ads, and all the rest of it, you know, they kind of get lost. Oh, you just getting the odd sound hiccup. Let me know if the sound gets worse, if I completely disappear. Fingers crossed. Okay, but here is one statistic that really shocked me. Statistically, a person is more likely to survive a plane crash than they are to click on your banner advert. You know, that's kind of like a bit amazing. So really, banner adverts, if you're relying on them, that's not such a good thing. And the conversion rates from adverts and sales pages are nowhere near as good as webinars. So basically, that's what I'm here to do, is to tell you the strategy. You know, if you want to be heard above all of that marketing noise, then I've got a way better way of doing it, and that's quite simply, as I've said, through webinars, but not any old webinars. Webinars that work and sell. I just want to do a bit of a checking in with you. Can people hear me all right? I get a bit worried when people say they, you know, there's a few sound issues. Can you just type in the box and let me know? Yeah, okay, yes, we've got a yes. All right, fine, fantastic. Okay, just give me the nod if it disappears. All right, lovely. So what I'm going to do is share with you how webinars can sell. So pay full attention, Okay, it's always tempting. I know, I'm guilty. I do this. When I'm listening to webinars, I kind of might browse my Facebook or, go and check emails or all the rest of it and multitask. But pay attention, because this literally can transform your life. It transformed mine. When you apply this knowledge, and I don't want you to just be passive. I'm going to take on this information passively this evening. What I want you to do is really to go away and do those webinars. Get stuck in with your webinars, because it make all the difference. Okay, and if you stay to the end of the webinar, right at the very end, I'm going to give you a download link where you can get your hands on an amazing webinar planning checklist that I put together for you to take away some of the headaches, and so that you don't forget anything, so that you've got all things covered, and that you can nail every webinar that you do and make it profitable. I'll also tell you how you can get your hands on more information, because I can't tell you everything that there is to share about webinars in just an hour or hour and 15 minutes or so this evening. So this webinar is for you if I might as well tell you what's going to be on here as well. I'm going to tell you exactly the things that I did to go from no sales at all to 16,000 from just one webinar. That's £10,500 UK pounds, $16,000. I've told you about the checklist, and also I'm going to do a Q&A session where you can get all your questions answered as well. Alright, so where are you now? Okay, I want you to type these numbers in the box, with 1 being low and 10 being high. I want you to rate yourself on the results that you've been getting from your webinars so far. If you've not been doing any webinars, just put 0. Just give me a bit of an idea where you're at with your experience. And also put the numbers in on the level of confidence that you've got about running profitable webinars. Oh wow, we got loads of zeros. You're in the right place, guys. Okay, so we've got some low numbers coming in. In that case, we got a 7 and an 8. Fantastic. Okay, so we got some. I'm not sure if that's for confidence or for the results that you've actually been getting, but that's fantastic. 10 on the confidence level. Fantastic, Jude. Well done. All right, so we've got a mixed bag there. But what I'm here to do is whatever your number is, to raise it higher. And if you're already on 10, we'll just make it, so that it's a 12. We'll make it so that it's a breeze for you. Okie dokie. So think about why you're here on this webinar in the first place. And in fact, not just why you're on the webinar in the first place, what is it that you set up in business for? Okay, for a lot of people, it's either that they want to make a difference, or that they want to increase their income, or both. Generally, a lot of people, it's all about wanting to earn a great living by serving other people. So let me know, what is it that you want to achieve with your webinars? Is it to make a difference? Is it to increase your income? Is it something else? Is it fame and glory? What is it that you want to do in your business? And put your answers in the box for me. Okay, increase. Yeah, both. Yeah, so generally it's pretty much both for most people. Fantastic. So let's dig down a little bit deeper into this then. Generally, one of the problems that people sign up to these kind of webinars is because as yet you don't maybe have quite as many clients as you would like. You may be just starting out and not have any. You might be in a situation where you do have clients but you want more. It could be that your subscriber list is very small. It could be that you've got a big subscriber list but the income isn't coming from it. And what that ultimately means is that you're not able to make that difference to other people. And as George says here, just want to sell good products. So maybe you're not selling as many of those good products as you would like. And for a lot of people, then it's all about that kind of not walking your talk. I've got there's a lot of coaches who follow me, and it's kind of I know that this is something that I suffered with when I was kind of, struggling to get clients when I was a coach. I'm kind of saying to people, I want to help you to, maximize your potential and live the life of your dreams. And I'm thinking, well, how can I do that when I'm actually not doing that myself? So for me, it was a big deal, and I'm really happy to say that webinars have turned that around for me. Quite simply, I've gone from not being able to walk my talk and maximize my income to doing it, which is, to me, happy days indeed. And that's what I want for you. So on the other side of that, what we want, no doubt, is a massive subscriber list that's growing all the time. Plentiful clients who are attracted to you rather than you having to keep chasing them down. That you want to make a big difference. You want to sell great products, and you want to have... Sorry, I'm just being attacked by a wasp or a fly or something here. And you want to have the income, for your dream life and become that role model. And that is really, the difference that we're talking about here. So the vehicle then is that ability, to get you from wading in the treacle to being a superstar, is the ability to run, quite simply, profitable webinars. So how do you learn to run profitable webinars? Well, it's quite simple, really. You can either do it the hard way, a bit like I did in the beginning, doing it, okay, I'll set up a webinar. I'll go and, figure out how to do it. I'll just look online and get a platform. I can read it from books. You can learn it from other people, but beware. I initially started learning off people who either didn't know what they were doing, or there were other people that I was following, and let's just say, I didn't always learn from the right people. So make sure that you're choosing where you learn wisely. And a little bit on that note, one of the reasons why I would like to be that person who helps you is, first of all, I've got all the qualifications, and yet I bombed in terms of earning. So I know what it's like to have, be qualified up to the hill and still not get anywhere. Once I got the right mentoring, once I got the right experience, once I got the right learning, everything fell into place, and I got my first 5-figure month last year. Now, this is something that's really exciting. You don't have to be a big guru with a massive subscriber list to have a 5-figure month from just one webinar. You really don't. It bugs me a little bit when you see these people who make false promises. Hey, you can start off with your first webinar and you can go from 0 to a 6-figure income, or 6 figures in 1 month. That's just not realistic. But if you persevere and you keep going like I did, and you gather you get the training, you get the right techniques, and then you put it all together. When I got my first 5-figure month, I didn't have a track record. Not many people knew about me. I had a relatively small, in fact, no, let's face it, I had a tiny, when I first started out with this and I got my first 5-figure month, my subscriber list was about 1,500, that's all, whereas a lot of these big gurus, it's easy for them because they've got subscriber lists of 20, 30, 40, 50,000. But you don't have to have that. You can do really well with just starting out, which is exciting. A bit about me personally: I live in Plymouth in the southwest of England, love to salsa dance, and my dream is to go to Gibraltar and live there, because as much as I love Plymouth, it's not got enough sunshine for me. But that's enough about me. What's your dream? Where do you want to go with this? Where do you want to live in the sunshine like me, or I don't know, what is your dream? It's a good idea to have that in the back of your mind, which is what drives you to do what is necessary to make your webinars work. Alrighty, I said in the pre-stuff I wasn't going to go on and on about me, so I'm not. What I'm going to tell you though is that I've developed a profitable webinar blueprint, which is proven theories that work. These are theories that I've literally studied. I've spent the last year or so studying the best in the business when it comes to webinars. And I've taken the bits that I like out of all of them and the bits which I have found work best for me. And I've broken them down into easy to follow steps so that I can share those with you. And what those basically what all that training has also told me is that there are certain mistakes that I was making in the beginning, and having talked to a lot of other people, these are the kind of mistakes other people make. So the 5 big mistakes. Number 1, that you don't set aside time for training. Now, webinars are simple, but they're not necessarily easy. Or is it the other way around? I always forget which way around that should go. But basically, in theory, it should be easy enough. The reality is that there's lots of balls that you've got to juggle, and keep going in the air. Certainly, there is a lot to learn. And one of the things I found was sometimes with that learning, you get it all at once and it just goes over your head. You can't take it all in. So what's important is that you set aside time and you take it step by step. And I've broken the steps down to make it easy for people. And I've separated all the bits out. So, you can identify where you're at and where you need the help. Mistake number 2 is there's no planning. Yeah, you've all heard about the 7 P's, of planning. Well, I like to call it the 4 W's, okay? And that is quite simply, winging it is for wallies, working it is for winners, okay? So a lot of people just do webinars off the cuff and they just don't give it any thought. They just say, hey, I'll do a webinar on this topic, I'll do it next week. But you need a strategy, you need to have processes to make sure that everything that you're supposed to do gets done, and you need to give yourself enough time and to plan it and make sure that you're gonna get the best out of it. The third mistake, and I'm going to talk about this a bit later on. Now, the third mistake is that people don't use a visual model. Now, you can be forgiven for this mistake because if you've never been trained, then you wouldn't know that. But a lot of people, they set their program out in just text, a whole load of text, a whole load of program content in list after list after list of bullet points that just doesn't grab the audience's attention, is not memorable. Okay, so here's my top trade secret number 1 that goes along with this mistake, and that is to use a visual model. All the people who get known and remembered for being, experts, they use some kind of model to frame their content. And that's what makes them stand out. It's what makes them memorable. It's what makes people share it. Because it's just such an interesting way of getting what could be quite mundane points, if you get my drift. I mean, like, for example, the sales funnel. If it's just steps, it doesn't. But here are the 5 steps to sales. Are just not as sexy as here's the sales funnel. Yeah. So sometimes it can be just something as small as that makes a massive difference. So my big top tip is to use visual models. Okay. The next big mistake that people make is that they have a weak presentation. And by that, I mean the first 95% is just totally made up of educational content, and then there's a really awkward sale tagged on to the end. And sometimes even the educational content isn't structured and it rambles all over the place, and people kind of get confused. And if people are confused, trust me, they're not going to buy. Okay? I'm going to reveal the top trade secret number 2 at the end of the webinar, which basically fits with this 4th mistake that people make. So I can help you to put that right, but that's going to come right at the end. The 5th mistake that people make is failing to follow up. The big money in a webinar is in the follow-up. You absolutely must have a follow-up process. It's so easy to think all the work, all the effort that goes into running a webinar, and when the webinar is done, you kind of breathe a big sigh of relief, reward yourself with a glass of wine or a beer or a bar of chocolate, whatever your treat is likely to be, and then forget all about it. At best, people will send out an email saying, here's the recording, hope you enjoyed it, or sorry if you missed it, here's the replay. That's not enough. You must have a follow-up process in place to really capitalize on the sales and the money from your webinar. And I'll again go into some of this in a bit more depth as we go through. So a couple of key insights for you. Number one, all of these mistakes are made simply because of a lack of training. I made every single one of those mistakes and more, but as soon as I got the right kind of training, the right kind of mentoring, and then I started putting all of this together, and then all of a sudden I've gone from selling nothing on a webinar to just the odd $27 or the odd $37, as I say, to sales conversion rates of 30% and more, so that's the difference, just simply the training. And once you've got the right training, it's easy to stand out and make an impression and make great sales. Because if you are comparing a webinar from somebody who's been trained against somebody who hasn't, and they're just winging it because they know their topic or whatever, you can see the difference, and more importantly, the difference shows up in the results. So the point now is, when are you gonna get that training, to and put it in place to go from wading around in the treacle to being a superstar? Well, quite simply, why would anybody want to take a moment longer wallowing around in that treacle when they could be being seen as the expert, the go-to person in the field? What is the cost to your credibility and success if you don't actually start making changes in your business? Confidence levels go down, how you're perceived, goes down, and all the rest of it. And if it just costs you $1,000 for a program that's going to completely turn that around on its head, then, and to start earning 5 figures from one webinar, crikey, that would be an investment well spent, wouldn't it? It certainly was for me. So the time, quite simply, to do it is now. So are you ready? Are you ready to stand up and be noticed? Are you ready to go from the treacle to being a superstar? Because, get scribbling, I'm now going to, really get into, I've given you a lot of tips and things to take away with, but now let's get into the real meaty stuff. The meaty stuff that will let you, be able to really run those profitable webinars so that you can stand out as the credible authority in your field. Now, my Wicked Webinars is based around the Profitable Webinar Blueprint, and I normally sell this at $97. And basically it is all around my 5 Ps. And you can see here I've got my visual model. It doesn't have to be a complex visual model. So mine is based around an alliteration and the old 4 square box, which is a popular business model, with that profit, which is at the heart of it, right in the middle. So let's go through those 5 Ps, because I'm going to share with you some of the key tips from each one of those so that you've got something to take away with you for each part of the blueprint. So first of all, then, planning. Now, this is an essential but often overlooked part. If you don't do this, basically the whole thing can go pear-shaped and fall down around your ears. So if you're not going to do the planning, it's going to be really difficult to get those positive results. When I first started, I would just do random webinars on random topics, and it wasn't fitting in with my sales funnel. So what you've got to do is start looking at how your webinars fit in with your overall strategy. What is your overall strategy? What is your sales funnel? How will your webinars fit in with your sales funnel? How often should you run webinars? What should your webinar topic be about? What are the kind of things that you need to think of that go along with it? Like, for example, sales pages, thank you pages, bonuses, freebies and incentives. All of these sort of things need to be taken care of. Now, I don't have time again tonight to just go into all of this, but what I've got for you is a planning template at the end which tells you every single thing you need to consider when planning your webinar. So I'm going to give that to you right at the end, so make sure you stick around to the end, and rather than me talk about it all now, you can just download that and quite happily go through everything that's involved in your planning stage. Oh, Caroline's just saying that she's got to go. Yes, I will be sending a recording out if you're having troubles with broadband or if you've got to go or anything. Okay, so although the template will only be there if you stick to the end or if you buy the product, because it's obviously in there as well. Anyway, so that's the planning. Now, the presentation. A lot of people start with their presentation with a blank PowerPoint slideshow and work from there. That's not the way to do it. The first thing that you need to do is construct the structure of your webinar presentation. And what that means is you need to start quite simply with a simple structure, beginning, middle and end. But you need to start with the end. What is the outcome you want? What do you want your audience to think, feel and do at the end of the webinar? Because the way that everything else is constructed then needs to lead towards that ending. So there's a lot of construction work to do. So you do the end and then you decide, well, what am I going to talk about at the beginning? And then how am I going to link the two? And then the body, the bit in the middle, how am I going to organise that? Etc, etc. So it's really important to do that construction before you ever write a single word or before you write a single slide. Once you've done that, you've kind of got a skeleton. And now what we're going to do is put the meat on the bones. So what you need to do now is craft a little bit more about how that presentation is going to look. So you actually start writing the words, start writing a first draft of your script. Then you put it down, you go away, and then you come back, and the next stage now is about how can I captivate my audience. So what can I use in terms of metaphors, stories, visual models and all the rest of it to take what could be a presentation that's been sort of well crafted but maybe isn't as exciting as it could be. And this is where you really want to put the oomph, the secret sauce in is how you captivate and engage your audience. The charm is all about how you're going to deliver it. So this is all about things like your voice, your vocal variety, where you need to have loads of energy and get excited about your presentation. Things which, earlier on when I was talking about why webinars, I naturally get excited because I'm passionate about webinars. And then there'll be parts where I want you to really think about something, so I'll slow down and pause to give you time to think. Okay, so this is where the charm comes from. It's how you deliver it. So we've all heard the expression, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And this is so true when it comes to a presentation. If anything, it's more important on a webinar because you haven't got the stage space, so you can't be using your body language in exactly the same way. And if you're not using a webcam, it's even more important that people can hear your body language in your voice. The last C is all about continuous improvement. Now, how many of you have seen totally amazing speakers on stage? Speakers who are professional and can earn hundreds of thousands a year just from speaking alone. They might get paid $10,000 for a single speech. How many of you seen speakers like that? Or, if not live on stage, or recordings of them? Okay, type in the box, let me know you're still there. Yeah, you've seen them. Brilliant. What are your thoughts when you see somebody who's that good? Yeah, tell me what goes through your mind when you think how do you think they got that good? Do you think, gosh, I wish I could be like that? Do you think, what is it that makes them so good? Were they born that way? And you guys have hit the nail on the head. Lots of time training, loads of practice, and they're really prepared. But there's something that even goes beyond that. And this is this continuous improvement. Here's the secret. A lot of people who are amateur speakers, and let's say for example your local Chamber of Commerce say, oh, can you come and give me a talk on, can you come and give a talk to our members? And then they might ask you again, and you might be asked somewhere else. And what happens is you give different talks every time. Okay? No, these professional ones, they have one keynote speech, or a very small number if they're really speaking professionally all the time, and they deliver one talk, one presentation, and they practice, so they become really fluent at it. They then get feedback. They record themselves on video. They tweak. They continuously improve. They get to know their material so well that it just flows seamlessly. And so this is what you need to do with your presentations. So you don't, this is really cool, guys. You don't have to have a whole load of different webinars in your arsenal, at your disposal. You just need to have one or two that you deliver over and over again and get really good at them. And then when you get really good at them, you start getting good conversion results, and then what happens is you're in demand, and other joint venture partners want you to speak to their audience as well. One talk, Charlotte, quite simply, because then that's what you get known for. That's what you get really good at. You can have, maybe you can expand it and have more than just one talk. But what I'm trying to say is, if you have loads of different talks, you're never going to get really, really good at all of them. It's better to have one or two talks in the bag. Plus, you'll see at the end when I share top trade secret number 2, why you should focus on a small number of talks, and preferably, initially, if we're looking at webinars, one, that you deliver on a regular basis and with different partners. Obviously, the better you get at it, and this is what happens with the, all of these big gurus. They start and they get known in a very narrow niche with a very specific area of expertise, and then gradually they widen it out. So gradually they bring more and more things into the fold, and then they can get away with it because they've already made a name. But you may get a name made for yourself by being a specialist. Rather than a general practitioner, become a specialist and you'll be in demand. And I can prove that because I started off, my specialist topic was public speaking. But I'm not the only public speaking trainer and coach. There's others, but there are much fewer webinar trainers who are training things outside of just the platform that somebody's delivered. So for me, I've become a specialist in webinars, which makes it easier for me to then talk about the other stuff that I do within the wider realm of public speaking. Does that make sense? Cool, fantastic. Alrighty, so that's the presentation. Moving on. Oh, my screen is freezing on me. My computer's on a go slow. Right, the platform. Now, this is one of my little... Okay, it's going to be difficult for me not to get on my soapbox here. There are so many people out there who do train webinars as part of a wider, they're business gurus or whatever. And they tell you to get a particular type of webinar platform. There's a massive number of people who are big fans of GoToWebinar, or they're pushing a program that either they have, what's the word I'm trying to say? They've developed it themselves, or they're affiliates and they're flogging the platform. I can honestly, hand on heart, tell you that I am unbiased when it comes to platform. But if anybody asks the question, what is the best platform? There is no such answer. And anybody who tells you the best platform is, without finding out about you and your business and what you want to do, doesn't know what they're talking about. Because the best platform depends on the style of your presentation, it depends on the functionality, the ease of use, and of course how much money you want to spend. It doesn't make sense to be spending an absolute fortune on a webinar platform if you're going to do one every 3 months. That's nonsense. So what you want to be looking at then is the style of your presentation. And let me give you a great example here. A very good friend of mine who is one of those professional speakers, he changed his platform to GoToWebinar. But his style of presentation was that he likes to have, and I'm sure you've seen this, a lot of people make videos in this style where you've got the whiteboard behind you and you talk in front of it and you write on it pretty much the way that you would if you were in a live workshop. Brilliant, except that he found out after the event that although GoToWebinar allows him to show his webcam live on the webinar itself, it does not record the webcam. So all it had to record for anybody listening to the replay was literally, that's all they could do was listen. They couldn't watch. There was nothing to watch apart from the standard slide that was up, because GoToWebinar does not record your webcam portion of the webinar. So that's something that you need to bear in mind. Other things that you want is, to bear in mind is, well, what kind of functionality do I want? I'm a big fan of these chat boxes where people can talk to each other as well as, to me. And it's also, makes it much easier for me to spot questions as they come up rather than having to go off into a control panel and, read the questions separately. So for me, I like to have the chat box there. A lot of the platforms don't have it. Google Hangouts do, which is fantastic. GoToWebinar doesn't. You tend to just only chat to the presenter and nobody else sees the questions which are being asked. Also, another functionality is I like the fact that it's got the webcam, because that for me increases audience engagement. But it's not important to everybody. So for a lot of people, it sounds like I'm slagging off GoToWebinar. I'm not. I'm just saying that there are reasons why it isn't so great. On the upside of it, GoToWebinar is easy to use. As far as ease of use, it is fantastic. For people who are a bit too nervous to be on, camera at the same time and want to start off with just doing voiceover slide presentation and who don't want to have to manage chat and questions and all that, brilliant. GoToWebinar is fine for that kind of stuff. But there are so many different platforms for you to choose from, and I'm kind of reviewing as many of them as I can. And in my program, I've got technical tutorials on a wide range of them, and I'm going to be adding more and more and more as things go along. And what I'm going to do as well is tell you where, in fact, I won't wait till the end of the webinar. Let me put it in for you now. I'll just call it up so that, because otherwise I'm likely to forget. Anybody who knows me will know that I'm not the I'm not the biggest attention to detail kind of person, and very often as soon as it's gone out of my attention, I kind of have a tendency to forget about them. Here we go, platforms report. It is an opt-in thing, but you're already on my list because you've attended the the webinar anyway. Here we go. Oh, it's been a bit slow. Right, let's pop that in there. Okay, so I'm putting the link in the chat box for you. And again, I go into all of this in a lot more detail in the actual program itself. Alrighty, so promotion. Now, if you don't do your promotion, you can be very lonely in talking to yourself. As I've mentioned, although webinars are the easiest, fastest way to promote your business, there is a bit of work to do. There's stuff that you've got to sort out. You've got to write your presentation, you've got to do your slides, you've got to set up your sales page, you've got to get your product ready. And if you don't promote your webinar, you're talking to the wall. A bit like Shirley Valentine, for those of you who are old enough to remember that film. So there are two parts to promotion. Number one is getting people to actually register. And number two is actually getting people to attend, which is also a bit of a challenge in itself as well. So first of all, let's have a look at how you get people to register. Well, first of all, you want to have killer registration pages. Now, the copy that goes onto these pages is really important. You want to make sure that you're really getting into the pain points and, give your big promise, and it needs to have a nice title. I don't profess to be a total expert on copywriting, but what I have learned is, is good conversion rates. What I'm doing, my methods work. I'm getting good sign-ups and good conversion rates from the numbers of people who are visiting the page. Another big one, so I'm going to give you some 3 tips here. Now, I've got something like 12 different strategies to get people to register, but I haven't got time to go into all of these In fact, I think it's 15, not 12. Yeah, 15 traffic techniques. So I'm just going to give you 3. First of all is the killer registration page. Get your registration page right. Secondly, joint venture partners. Joint venture partners have been brilliant for me. Again, when I had my nice big month, I was fortunate enough that I had a fantastic joint venture partner on with me promoting that webinar. The thing is, if you're starting out and not that many people know you, you need to be working with other people who are a bit more established than you. Now, it's unlikely you're going to get a joint venture partner from a guru who's like, you know, way up here. But what all you need to do is get a few good joint venture partners with people who are perhaps either got an equal size list to you, or they're you know, a little bit ahead of you, but somebody who fits and complements what you do. So working with joint venture partners is brilliant. So start thinking about, you know, who is in a similar business to what you do, and it's complementary, you know. So they might be already have a hungry crowd. They might already have a nice audience who are, you know, what you've got would be ideal for their audience. Okay, the next thing is generally the social media sharing. You know, it can be brilliant, you know, so things like Facebook events, Google Plus events, sharing it, inviting it. I've had so many people sign up from just social media sharing and getting, you know, everybody else on board with sharing your webinar as well. Obviously, in exchange, you need to share their stuff for them. That doesn't mean that you've got to write out to your list. If your lists are not compatible, then what you need to do is, you know, work out something different, like perhaps set up affiliate commission, or just do joint, you know, just do a swap on sharing, if that makes sense. So, for example, I've got a good friend of mine, her niche is parenting. Now, parenting and public speaking kind of don't go together, so it makes absolutely no sense at all for us to write to our lists about each other's products. But there's no problem with us sharing information on our social, you know, media channels, and supporting each other that way. Does that make sense? Okay, excuse me, I'm just going to take a swig of water. All right, the second thing is all about getting people to attend. This is the tricky bit. The average in just the you know, the average amount or the average stats for people to actually attend can be as low as 10% of the people who register. Average is kind of about 30%. And it varies on your niche, it varies on things like time of day, it varies on so many different things. And one of the things here is to just make sure, just to give you a tip on this, is to make sure you send reminders. How, oh, your screen is showing the first slide. That's weird. Is that happening for anybody else, guys? Okay. Let's just change it for a moment. Let's just re-click it. No? How bizarre. Why that should happen for you, Jude, and nobody else, I've got no idea. Okay. The mysteries of technology. Oh, and it's happened to Susan as well. How peculiar. Can't answer that one. Sometimes it's just gremlins. Most peculiar. Try refreshing. If you refresh, you may end up getting signed out, and then you'll have to sign back in. You'll have the recording anyway. Yeah. The visuals are not that important. Okay, fine. It's not happening for anyone else, so I'm going to carry on. So getting people to attend is important, and the little tricks is the reminders. I'm just going to give you, there's loads of tricks and tips to get people to attend, but one of the biggest is make sure you send sufficient reminders. How many times have you registered for a webinar and then you've forgotten, and you see the reminder and you're like, oh yeah, I meant to do that, glad I got the reminder, I know it, you know. And that's happened to me, and sometimes I've missed some of the reminders, and you know, literally 15 minutes it says we're starting now, and I'm thinking, oh gosh, yes, I wanted to do that. So reminders are huge. Make sure you send, you know, plenty of reminders. Make sure you've got sufficient reminders in place. Okay, finally, profit. This is the exciting bit. There are 3 parts to profiting from a webinar. First of all, having a presentation that sells. And towards the end, I'm going to tell you exactly how to do that. Secondly, the money is in the follow-up. So I've just been talking about the emails you should send out before the webinar. Now it's all about the emails that go out after the webinar, you know, thanking people for attending. If you can, try and send different emails to the ones who attended to the ones who didn't attend. You know, that's not always possible. You don't always have those analytics, but if you have, fantastic. And it's all about, you know, reminding people about your offer, about, you know, inviting them again to take in, you know, to go visit your sales page where you've got your offer, reminding them that this is the last chance they can get it at this discounted rate, etc., etc., etc. This is something that in the past I've been partly lazy on and partly, oh, I don't want to hassle people, but trust me, you have to do it, you know. When I wasn't doing it, I wasn't getting the results that I get when I do it. And it's easy, as I said earlier at the end, to just want to breathe that big sigh of relief. But you know, when people say goodbye on a webinar, you've still got work to do. And also, I told you exactly how I got to that 16,000, that magic 5-figure month. It's not just about reminding people to, you know, buy a product at $47. Let's face it, if you're selling at $47 or $97, you've got an awful lot of selling to do to get to 16,000. That's not how it works. The big numbers are made by having a follow up and upsell sequence. Okay, so but it doesn't have to be in your face. You know, I hate anything that's in your face. It really doesn't have to be. When I made that $16,000, I offered people strategy sessions, and trust me, I do not do a strategy session which is a sales pitch. This is kind of the opposite of what I'm telling you about. I'm going to be telling you about the webinar. The strategy session is exactly that. It's a strategy session, and then at the end, all it is, you don't have to like sell. It's quite simply, okay, so do you want to put that strategy session in place yourself, or would you like to hear about my mentoring program? Simple question, and I sold 5 as easy as that when I got my big figure month. You know, you at this stage you've built a relationship, and people are going to buy or they're not. And when you're talking about, you know, big sums of money, you don't want to be putting pressure on people, but you'll be surprised how many people want more help than you're giving them from just a self-study cheat program. There are so many people out there who say, yes, I want more help and I like you. So if you don't offer them an upsell, you're not only leaving money on the table, but you're doing people a disservice. Does that make sense? You know, it's about helping people to get there. Okay, so finally, the final way of profiting from your webinar is repurposing. So you can take a series of webinars, and I guess this kind of in a way contradicts what I was saying about only having one talk, but certainly you want to have things all around one topic, but you might want to you know, kind of break them out if you like. So what you want to be doing here is maybe taking your webinars that you've done, edit them so you take the sale bit off the end, and you simply repurpose them, you package them together and you sell them. Easy peasy. Or even if you've only got one webinar, sell it. You know, $27, £27 if you're in the UK. If you're giving good valuable content as well as selling, it will work. So always look at repurposing, and you can also repurpose your webinars by just using them to introduce people to other offers that you're doing. You know, there's too much to share. I wish I had more time, but you know, we're coming up to the hour point. We will definitely be finished by 1 hour and 15, I promise. There's not much left to go. And I've got those secret sale-y bits at the end to tell you about as well. Okie dokie. So to recap then, if you've been struggling to get all the clients that you want, and if you would like some more, if you really want your business to soar, you need webinars, and you need the 5Ps and my 5P blueprint. You need to do your planning. You need to make sure you've got the right presentation. You need to be choosing the right platform. I've got about 4 different platforms and I use them for different things. So tonight I'm using, this is Evergreen Business Systems. Actually, in an hour's time, I'm going to be running a webinar for my VIP mentors, and I'm going to be using Google Hangouts. Next week, I'm going to be doing a members only webinar for members of my 5-star speaker system, and I use something called meaty. Okay, so I use different platforms for different kinds of presentation. And then of course you need to get all your promotion in place, and you want to be making sure you're profiting, you know, as well as giving great value. Okay, so let me tell you then a little bit how you can get more in-depth information on all of those things that I have been able to share with you tonight. And that is by my basically getting my Wicked Webinars program, which is all about my unique profitable webinar blueprint. And I'm adding to this all the time. So I'm adding in, you know, new information as new platforms come out. I'm adding stuff all about the new things. So you're getting all the modules which tell you in a lot of depth the things I haven't been able to tell you about the 5Ps tonight. There are video tutorials in there, PDF guides in there to help you, because people, you know, learning a range of different styles. I've got I'm going to give you at the end a planning template. That's obviously in there as well, but there's also a presentation template that will guide you through how you need to put your actual presentations together. I've got more of an in-depth review of the popular platforms, and this is the golden nugget: techie tutorials. You know, the bit that really gets people rubbed up the wrong way. Now let me share something with you. I am not a techie person. I bang my head against a brick wall. Any of you who are friends with me on Facebook will know this. You will have seen my desperate posts of saying I want to throw my computer out the window. The fact that I'm not a techie means that I've broken it down into easy step by step, literally click by click. You know, and I've got them on all the popular ones. Go to Webinar, Evergreen. I'm going to put more stuff in there on some of the new ones come out, like Webinar Ignition and Google Hangouts and all of that kind of stuff. I've got some pre-recorded webinars in there, you know, on extra information about webinars too. I've also got some cool bonus training material. This platform that I told you about I'm using here, Evergreen, was put together by a guy called Mike Filsame, who is a total expert on particularly automated webinars. And I found a really cool hour-long tutorial from Mike, which really helps. It's so I've gathered information, and it's freely available. I'll be honest, it's freely available out there on YouTube, but it's kind of knowing what to look for and where to find it. So I've made it easy for you by bringing it all together. Yeah, some people are still, and do you know what? When it comes to techie, I'm still learning as well, guys. But what I'm able to do is share with you what I've learned so far. And what I'm going to be doing is as I add new stuff, you'll get automatic updates. Okay, so here's the kind of things which people have said about my training so far. Trace Garrow, I got a lovely testimonial from Trace saying that she was one of the best webinars that she'd seen in months. And how would you like to have that kind of testimonial appear in your Facebook feed about a webinar that you've run and see people sharing it? You know, I was absolutely chuffed to bits to get that, and this is what I want for you guys as well. Another testimonial that I'm really proud of, and a lady that I'm proud of, Judith from who is the parenting pacemaker. She steered well away from webinars. She wouldn't even contemplate them. And Judith is a friend of mine, so I basically said to her, "You are ready. You can do it." I gave her, you know, she got my program, and now she's delivered 5 webinars. Not only that, she really enjoyed every single one, and she was absolutely thrilled, and her confidence was on the ceiling, and now she is rocketing. She's really getting in there. So you know, and that's, you can go from being too scared to do it to really enjoying them as well as profiting from them. You know, it's always nice when you enjoy what you do and all of the rest of it. Now, I'm so thrilled with the program I put together. If you buy it and you don't like it, I will give you your money back. Simple as that. So all the risk is on me. So, you know, it's kind of one of those things. Try before you buy. Well, you can't try before you buy, but if you buy and then you decide, no, it's not for me, I'll give you your money back. But I am certain that you won't, because I can put my hand on my heart and say that the stuff that I put together is really great. And as another sweetener for you, the fast action bonus, if you purchase by Sunday, I'm knocking the price down to $47. So it's half price if you buy until Sunday. So I'm just going to give you now that top trade secret number 2, and then I'm going to give you another little sweetener before I give you that link for you to download. Top trade secret number 2, do not sell just at the end of your webinar. Okay, sell all the way through. Oh, thank you, Sheila. Brilliant. Great to have you on board. All right. Now, this is why you'll see, guys, that I needed to put this at the end, because now I'm going to reveal to you, which is totally transparent, you know, and I believe that this is good enough value that I can be transparent. I've been selling to you all the way through. You start off talking about what is the pain that your audience is suffering from. What are the things they want instead of the pain? And then you set your product or program is to be the vehicle to get them from the pain to the pleasure. Okay? You'll remember I did that. You'll remember that I made it real by asking you, what is your level of confidence? What is your ability? You know, what are the results you've been getting? So it automatically puts this psychological thing, I need help. And then when you give the information, you know, it's really about, you know, getting people wanting to move away from the pain towards the pleasure and the fact that they need help to get there. Does that make sense? Okay, cool. Now, the next thing that you do is if you remember, I actually told you, you remember I said about using a visual model, and then I showed you my visual model, and I told you that it's all about the 5 Ps, and to be profitable in webinars, you need to be doing this. The cost in sterling, Janet, is about £28, £28.50, depending on the exchange rate. So basically what I did is I set the scene up for you. Now, what I then did, hope you'll agree, I've given you some great content around each of those 5 Ps, and I've given you some useful stuff that if you don't buy the program, you know, you've still had great value from, you know, the webinar tonight. But at the same time, I've left you in no illusion that there's a heck of a lot more than what I've been able to share tonight. There's a heck of a lot more where that came from, you know, and there's more tips, there's more tricks, there's more to learn, there's more to do, and all the rest of it. So I've been selling to you all the way through. And then, of course, what you do is you say, right, this is, and $97 is my full price, and it will be on my website. Technology, and this is where I'm going to prove to you that I'm not a technology expert, because if I was, I would have it on my website at $97, and I would be able to give you the special offer. I haven't learned how to do that yet, and that's nothing to do with webinars. That's to do with merchant accounts and PayPal and sales pages and all that kind of thing. So at the moment, I've had to move it down to $47, and then I'll put it back up to $97, and then I'll probably set up a second product, which is completely different. So I've got one at the full price, and then one when I do my special offers, which I can play with. But it'll never be as low as $47 again. To make it even sweeter though, what I want to tell you now is, because we're all brilliant at procrastinating, oops, I just hit the wrong button. Oh no, I haven't, there we go. I mean, I do believe this is fantastic value. £28.50 or $47, oops, go back one, is the price of a meal. It's a coffee a day for a month, or even a week. I'm not even sure actually. But if you buy by 10 o'clock tonight, so in other words, you've got 2 hours from now, I'll behave, my slides won't stay put. I will give you a one-to-one strategy session I normally charge, if I'm doing a coaching session, I normally charge $247 an hour or £150 an hour. And as I said to you before, this is not a sales pitch. This is a strategy session where I will help you take your webinar strategy and we will go through what you need to do. And then you've got a choice. You can just say, brilliant, thanks very much. And, you know, you put it in, what we've talked about, you put into place. Or you can say, wow, I love that, but I could do with some extra help. And, you know, if you want me to, I'll tell you about my mentoring program. If you don't want me to, I won't even tell you about it. How's that for a fair deal? Okay. But one of the things I can't stress enough, the thing that changed my life was getting the right mentors. And you know, it really has been a massive thing for me, which has kind of changed my life completely around. But just the strategy session on its own will set you going on the right path. So if you book by tonight, you will get that free one-to-one strategy session with me. Okay, fantastic. Oh, let me tell you something else about the sales thing, guys. You don't have to be sales pitchy. One of the things I can't stand, put the price back, hang on, I'm just looking at questions. I'll come to the question in a minute, Jude. But one of the things I can't stand is when people use sales techniques like, oh, you'd be really stupid if you don't do this, or they make you feel, oh, you can't afford not to do it, or I don't like any sales strategies that put pressure on people. All right, that is not what I'm about, and I hate people who do that. But let me tell you something that you do need to do when you're selling on your webinars. You need to believe in your product. You need to be enthusiastic about it. I think you'll probably have seen I'm enthusiastic about my product. I think it's brilliant. I think it's going to really help people to make more money. I think it's the best thing since sliced bread. If I'm not enthusiastic about my product, how the heck can I expect other people to be, to the point where you've got to put your hands in your pocket? Yeah. So please note there's a difference between being an enthusiastic advocate of your product and a pushy, horrible salesperson. Does that make sense? So you can sell, but without being a horrible, pushy salesperson. I hope that makes sense. Okay, fantastic. Now, any questions? And then I'm going to put up the link for the for your planning template. So, Jude, let me see. You put the price down and back up again. No, there were only 2 secrets, Jude. 2 trade secrets. I'm not sure what you mean about putting the price down and putting the price back up again. Basically, let me tell you the pricing model that I'm following. My normal price for my products are going to be, for this one, for example, it's going to be $97. Other products, I've got my full price. Now, you can't lie to people and never sell at the full price, okay? So you have to, and these will be available as soon as I've worked out the technology side of it. They are going to be available for people to actually buy at full price on my webinars, on my website, okay? Now, at launch, which is pretty much what this is, I have this special price of $47. So what I'm going to be doing is, when that's over, when my Sunday night comes, I'm going to put it up to $97. And it will never again be $47. However, I will be running webinars in the future, and what I'll be doing is no doubt perhaps discounting it maybe to, I don't know, $75 or $67 or something of that nature, and then I'll put it down and put it back up again. Or ideally what I need to do is learn how to have the full price system available all the time, and then only for the people who've been on my webinar, that's where they get the offer. Does that make sense? but I haven't kind of figured out how to have different prices depending on whether you come via my webinar or via my normal website, if that makes sense. Okay, fantastic. Other questions, hang on, I'm just going to have a look, scroll. How do you do a webinar with 2 people? Very easily, Charlotte. Now, this is where GoToWebinar is fantastic. GoToWebinar is probably the easiest webinar platform for co-presenters. You can have co-presenters in this one. And in fact, Sharon Buck and myself are going to be running a webinar next Thursday, so this time next week, specifically for authors to sell more books through webinars. And what we're going to be doing is co-presenting. This platform isn't quite as easy as GoToWebinar. It's a bit kind of, I have to pass to Sharon, then Sharon has to do her bit, pass back to me, and so on and so forth. With GoToWebinars, you can just unmute people, and you can have, in fact, you can have 2, 3, 4, you can have as many people as you like talking at the same time with GoToWebinar. An alternative to that is using Google Hangouts. So you can have Google Hangouts where you can have a panel of, well, in fact, you can have up to 10 presenters, probably a bit crowded. But I've seen, in fact, I took part as an expert on the panel with a great webinar that Joe Barnes did with Stephen Renton, and there were 4 of us on the panel altogether, and the 4 of us were presenters, and we just took it in turns to speak, and then that was being broadcast to unlimited numbers, you know. So there's lots of different ways, and these are all the kind of subjects that I will be adding and discussing and putting into the program as well. Can you sell your time as opposed to a product? Yes, you can. It's more difficult because, if I'm honest, Heather, a webinar is usually one of the first points of contact where you're doing a first sale. Now, your one-to-one sessions are going to be a lot higher, and I'll be honest with you, it's more the higher the price and the more of a excuse me, the more new you are to the relationship with your audience, the more difficult it is to make the sales on a webinar. People who've built up a following can probably sell, you know, $500 on a webinar, easy peasy. You can sell up to $2,000 or, you know, sort of £1,000, but generally you've got to have built up a good level of trust. So if you're selling your one-to-one time, which really, you know, you should be talking premium price here, it's not as easy. The easier route is to sell something lower price and then upsell. But that doesn't mean to say it can't be done, you know. It depends on your audience, it depends on your niche. Okay. Any other questions? Have I missed any questions? Yeah, like I did. Yeah, exactly, Jude. Okay. Yes, Sharon, go ahead. Put the link up for our webinar that we're doing next week. If any of you are authors, then it's well worth it, because we're going to be hatching content which helps not just fiction, not just non-fiction writers, but for fiction writers as well. Although, if I'm going to be honest, I'm relying on Sharon to kind of talk about that bit. You can do a joint webinar. Right, if you sell 2 different things from one webinar, Christina, you're going to confuse the audience. What you really should do is have one solid call to action. So if you've got 2 of you, you kind of either need to take it in turns, or if you've both got different products, or create a joint product. So if you've got something which is worth $47 and you're doing a joint program, a joint webinar with somebody else who's also got a product at $47, the very fact that you're doing a joint webinar presentation means that those 2 things go together. So join them together and sell it for $97 and then split the proceeds between you. That's the way that I would approach it. You only want one call to action at a time, okay? Now, obviously, from this you can upsell, and you can have multiple upsells, you can have follow-up campaigns, and you can do all sorts of things, but one sale at a time. If you give people too much choice, they think, hang on a minute, I've got to think about this. So make it easy. It's not, oh, which one shall I buy? It's, I'm going to buy yes or no. As simple as that. Does that make sense? Okay, cool. Now let me give you, before I forget, because the webinar that I did this morning, I forgot the webinar planning checklist. And we're coming to the time that I said that we would wrap up. So here's your checklist. Now you'll see from this, there is a lot to it. Yeah, I kind of, when I was putting it together, I was trying to balance, is this going to scare you to death? But to be honest, you do need to think about all of these things to make your webinar profitable. You don't have to do all of these things, but if you want a profitable webinar, you pretty much do, if that makes sense. And I've tried to cover everything in there, including the upsells, the thank you pages, the follow-up process, and absolutely everything. Now, if you've got any questions at all, then quite simply go to, all of that kind of stuff is in the program as well, Sheila. And, you know, I am open to adding stuff into the program which you need to know, and I might not have put it in yet. I'm going to be, because this is the other thing, I'm going to be developing this program big time, because webinars are becoming so popular. I'm going to be putting more and more and more stuff in. I'm going to be improving it all the time, and you guys get it, all the updates at this price. When I improve it, guess what I'm going to do? I'm probably going to put the price up even more than $97. But you'll get everything. And if there's anything in there that you think, oh, she hasn't covered that, and I want to know how to do that, drop me a line and I will put it in, I promise, because I'm passionate about helping people. I want to be, let's make no bones of this, I'm ambitious. I want to be the go-to person for webinar training. So if there's anything I'm not covering, tell me and I'll do my best to cover it. If it's a platform that I haven't bought myself, the techie tutorials for that might be a bit more tricky, but I'll see if I can get somebody to make them for me, or I will see if I can get a free trial so that I can make those techie tutorials as well. Okay, fantastic. Any other final questions, or are there any questions that I've missed, guys? Because if you've asked a question and I haven't answered it, it's just because I haven't spotted it. So if I haven't answered a question, then please re-ask it, or if you've got any new things that you haven't thought of yet. Thank you, Sharon. That's very kind of you. You can tell that I love what I do, yeah? Oh, how do you find out the one topic? That is, now that, basically the niche and the topic is a wider thing altogether. I'm going to put a little bit of stuff in the Wicked Webinars. If you really want to look massively, then if you get the Wicked Webinars program, you will qualify for a big discount on my 5-star speaker system, where I go into your niche, your topic, and all of that in an awful lot more detail, and I've got videos and things to really help you with that. One talk, basically the one talk should be about the first thing that you want to sell. So giving you that right now, my funnel, okay, I'll be transparent, my sales funnel is Wicked Webinars, is the first thing that I'm going to sell. From there, I want people to buy my wider program, which is my 5-star speaker system. And, you know, from there, I'd love people to go into my VIP mentoring program. But what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be giving this talk is going to be my one major talk about webinars. So that's what you want to develop for your profit. And this is why I said your strategy and your planning is important. You need to know what your sales funnel is so that you can do your webinars at the starting point and build a really good relationship. And, you know, let's face it, $47 is not a risk. So if you kind of think, oh, that person didn't really deliver what I was expecting, you haven't broken the bank. You don't want to have to spend several $100s to find out that person doesn't deliver. Does that make sense? So if somebody's delivering on that, then you can feel more confident about upselling. Yeah, does that make sense? Hope that answers that question. Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for staying with me, guys. Have a nice rest of the afternoon for you in the US and Canada. Although I guess it's probably starting, I guess it's mid-late afternoon, depending on whether you're West Coast or East Coast. Have a nice afternoon. For those of you in the UK, have a wonderful evening. And I look forward to, I very much look forward to working with some of you. And again, you got up until 10 o'clock tonight to get that free Stashisy session with me. So fantastic. I look forward to hearing, or also go into Facebook, put in the search Wicked Webinars and come and join the Wicked Webinars Facebook group as well. And I would love to hear either on my Webinar Diva Facebook page or in my Wicked Webinars group all about how you're getting on. Okay, fantastic. See you later, guys. Cheerio.